So I found out that my mom had polycystic kidney disease in high school. My first year of college, so 2009, she went on the wait list. And they said living donation would be a best option if you have anyone in mind. My dad was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll get tested. He was almost a perfect match, which is like incredible. And just a few weeks later, they were scheduled for surgery. She woke up and she just looked healthier immediately, like having that kidney function back. So I watched her go through that and I was like, I want to do this for someone, whether it's someone in my family or someone in need. And that really started my trajectory on just like working in the transplant field. I'm not a clinical person, but I really just had this appreciation for everything that goes into transplant. So when I got to the point where I was healthy enough and old enough and I was done having kids, I was like, I'm ready to do this. So going into it, I did not know. I was basically like, whoever's in most need has access to that kidney. But I wrote him a letter about a week post-op just to say, hey, I'm so happy to have done this and I hope that you're doing well in recovery. I got a letter back from him like 3 days later, and his name is Antonio. We are the same age. He's doing as well as he can be doing recovering, and we are in constant contact. He FaceTimes with my kids and he reaches out to us, and so it's been a truly incredible experience.
I was 12 years old and I went into acute liver failure. I had gone to my local center and they transferred me to Georgetown, which was my transplant center. And after more testing, we found out that I had Chiari syndrome, or blood clots in all three of my hepatic veins, which had led to the acute liver failure. When I was 12, they decided to put a shunt in to kind of stabilize my condition a little bit before transplant, and it worked. So for 5 years, I lived with a shunt in my liver, knowing that I would eventually need a liver transplant to survive. You don't quite grasp it, I don't think, when you're 12 years old. You're pretty young, and I remember being wheeled onto the transplant floor and not understanding what that meant. I was really more worried that I was missing school, and I was a competitive swimmer, so I was really worried about missing swim practice. Eventually, it started to kind of kick in. I think more so when I was discharged, you try to kind of just go back to what you were doing previously, and you realize that that's not, you just can't go back. And I think that's when it started to hit me. I started to realize that maybe I was a little different, and I had to take medication and go and do follow-up testing and follow-up appointments, and all of that kind of started to snowball. But 288 days, I received a call and I was the primary recipient. So I went into the hospital knowing pretty much that that was going to be my liver and that was going to be my offer. And the surgery went great. It was only 4 hours, which is relatively quick. The recovery was rough. I had a lot of complications with bleeding and infection, but once I kind of hit the 7-month mark, I started to get a lot of strength back, and I love my medical team. They've not only, saved my life, but kind of become my biggest supporters as well, pushing me forward to reach my goals. It's just so much fun.
Early 2019, I had an acute medical issue. I had been having shortness of breath for a few weeks, and I was actually a resident doctor in Philadelphia. By the end of 2018, I went to the hospital and I was really acutely ill. That's when they told me that my ejection fraction, which is the way like your heart pumps basically, was 5%, which is really low. And at that time, the function was so bad that the only thing they could have really done was a transplant. So I got transferred to University of Pennsylvania by the beginning of 2019, and I got my transplant January 15, 2019. Eventually found out the cause was something called familial dilated cardiomyopathy. So it had been a genetic defect that I really never knew about until I was about 30 years old. We did the surgery. I really didn't have any complications or anything post-operatively. I feel like I was finally able to take my first breath with a new heart, and I really felt like rejuvenated. I am so grateful for the impact that my organ donor Lucy had in my life. She's the true superhero. So it was 4 people total. It was me, 2 kidney recipients, and a liver transplant recipient, and her family actually was in touch with all of us, so it meant a lot to her family too.
I'm forever grateful for my donor and their family for making the selfless decision to donate and save my life. The impact that they have doesn't just impact me, it impacts everybody in my life. So to potential donors, thank you. You save people like myself, and I'm extremely grateful for it.
Living donation has been such a gift. I have seen so many lives change, not just Antonio's, not just mine, but our friends and our family, my colleagues. So many people who just ask me questions about it, like, how does your life change now? What's going on? Or, do you have impacts for life? And my life hasn't changed, except that I know that there's someone healthier on the other side because of it.